Hello, Becky Kilsby again. I'm founder and career coach at Freestyle Careers, and this is the second in a three-part series where I'm thinking about what is the missing piece in your career change. Most people take a long time to make a career change, and a lot of that time is taken up before they even decide what it is they might want to do next. Sometimes the effort goes nowhere. So I thought it would be useful to start by looking at two places people start, which are part of a career change, a successful career change for sure, but may not be the best place to start, and then revealing what I think is the missing piece, and I'll be doing that in the next video. Last time I talked about what kind of career change you might be able to make, and whether that meant changing sectors, changing organisations, changing roles, or a complete leap into something new in all kinds of ways. So today, the question we're looking at is how. And there's two parts I want to think about to this question, how. How can I change direction in my career? And the first is about decision making. How can I make a decision? And I touched on this briefly yesterday. For me, I spent almost the whole of a flip chart and many months evaluating the pros and the cons. Every framework you could think of, I used it to measure whether the change I was considering was a good idea or not. And this took up hours and hours and hours and kept me very busy, and I was convinced I was on the right track with that. But that was appeasing the rational side of my brain. And while I'm not at all suggesting you shouldn't go there, it's not the whole place to look. And I gradually realised that actually there's another source of innate wisdom within our intuition, for example, where you can find some answers, but more of that later. So there's the how can I make a decision, and then how can I actually get into action to get me from where I am now to where I want to be. This is all assuming that you've identified your what. So if you have your what, how do you evaluate it? How do you validate it? How do you decide you're going to do it? And then how do you get into action? So I've already said there's lots of different ways you can talk about decision making, and this is something I cover through experience really in my Quick Step Career Change programme. People find they have a range of ideas, and I encourage them to get as many ideas as possible, but they evaluate those ideas against the missing piece, and I'll talk about that tomorrow. So spreadsheets, flip charts are part of the decision-making process, and I think they do have their place, but I don't think they're the whole part of it. Intuition is one part of the missing piece, and the other one I'll talk about next, in the next video, that is. So the other part of why, the other part of today's focus, not why, but how, the other part of how am I going to get there is what actions can I take to make this happen? And invariably, this will start with a list of activities and may start with an overarching strategy. And it's good to distinguish strategy from tactics. So strategy is the overall route map that is going to take you from where you are now to where you want to be. And the tactics are the attitudes, the approaches, the things you're going to try to get you there. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those today. So in terms of strategy, it might, if, for example, your career change is going to be about retraining, obviously you're going to spend time researching what kinds of options are available. Do you have to do a degree course to do it? Is there a professional qualification? Is there something online that you can just test out to get a flavour of it? What are the ways that you might need to retrain? And that will be part of it. But it will also be presumably the financial side as well will be part of your strategy. How do you fund that? and whether you need to keep earning at the same time so that you can actually make it happen. So those would be part of the big picture, if you like. And one thing I do with my career change clients in the Quick Step program, in the final phase, which is called action, is all about identifying, getting very, very clear on what their current situation is. So current reality, where are they? What does it look like? Where do they want to be, and how can they build a bridge to get there? And by building that bridge, they're having to face the obstacles and challenges that are in their way. And those obstacles might be circumstances, they might be financial, they might be family oriented, they might be to do with mindsets, they might be to do lack of information, there could be all kinds of obstacles in the way. And what I do with my clients is to make sure all of those obstacles are very clear, that we're not putting our heads in the sand and ignoring them and hoping they'll go away. Every obstacle has a space on the worksheet I've devised, and there's a strategy and tactics for each of those obstacles so that they are all faced head on. And the end result is that there's a clear path and a clear way of getting there. So from A to B, from your current reality to your ideal new career, the place you're heading for. Along the way, one of the best places to look for inspiration within your strategy is people. I've found that far too many people I meet have spent or really wasted an awful lot of time reacting to advertised vacancies, waiting for the ideal job to pop up on their computer screen. And of course, it never will, because your ideal job is something probably that you're going to have to co-create to a certain extent, or at least move into something very close and then develop. So it's not going to be advertised. It's not going to pop up in front of you by magic. However much I believe in synchronicity, I don't believe in advertised vacancies necessarily coming up with the one, although they can be useful in giving you ideas and providing information about salaries and how that kind of career path works. So I'd say people are going to be at the heart of your strategy and your tactics. And that's one reason why I found I had to develop a guide for this. So I put together a guide called Connections to Fuel Your Career Change. And it's for people who hate networking or say they hate networking. But actually making connections with people in your target industry, in your target organisation or role, to understand better what the challenges are in that role or in that organisation, to understand what was the career path for that person, to understand what developments are coming up, what the challenges are within that sector at the moment. All of that provides really vital information and will give you some insights to understand, is this something I want to be doing on a daily basis? So it's really two-way traffic. But at the same time, what you are building in the connections that you're making is a potential ally or an advocate. It might be that you find that the person you meet and talk to sees something in you and wants to connect you with somebody else, either within the organisation or within their own network. And what would come out of that kind of informational interview is that you are connected with somebody else so that you can continue the conversation and get clearer. What you are not trying to do in that conversation is ask for a job. That is definitely not the point of it. And I talk about, in the guide I produced, I do talk about how you can set up these meetings, what the kind of protocols are for them, what professional best practice would be, in other words, so that you're not overstaying your welcome or taking the wrong tack, how you keep in touch with those connections afterwards, and how you can widen the net and widen your connections. So if you think that would be useful to you, you can jump over to the resources part of my website, freestylecareers.com, or just email me, that's fine, becky@freestyle-careers.com. Right, so people is a really central part of the how question. And I must say, in 2 of my 4 career changes, I've just added another one, haven't I? Yes, 2 of my 4 career changes, it's been people who have been the vital missing piece. And I think you can't underestimate where those conversations are going to lead. When I retrained as a career guidance practitioner, the way I managed to know that there was an opportunity was by going to a conference, meeting people, having a conversation about what I was doing and finding out more about university career services. And it so happened, and this is where synchronicity comes in, that the person I was speaking to knew the next step in that university's life was to develop a career service. This was in Dubai, so that particular campus of the university was fairly new, and they were building things gradually. So if I hadn't gone to that conference, if I hadn't struck up a conversation with that particular lecturer, thank you very much, in the dinner queue, and if there hadn't been that chance, those connections couldn't have been made because they weren't yet advertising that vacancy. And in fact, they never did advertise it because I came in for a chat and they felt that I was the right person. And believe it or not, that's the hidden jobs market in action. That is how so many opportunities are filled. So that is definitely people are at the heart of the matter for me. I think the other key part of your how, and this is definitely something people don't always think about, is the kind of mindset you're going to need to adopt to get through this, because this is not a quick win. I have to say that very clearly. It can take time, it can take a lot of effort, it can actually, take a lot of pushback sometimes, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, but you never know where that vital conversation is going to actually happen for you. So the mindsets of resilience, curiosity, of being authentic and honest and asking for advice and information, those are really important. And at the heart of that, I suppose, is a growth mindset. The belief that you can change, that you can make change happen, and that by working hard, developing what you've got, and just keeping going on your path, you will get there in the end. So don't underestimate that mindset is definitely part of your how. I think the final thing I want to say on this one, there's so much more I could say, but the final point that I want to make today is about the idea of prototyping, which is really at the heart of design thinking, which is the thinking that really underpins my approach to careers work. And that is that try things out to learn, and you won't see that as a failure. So having that mindset that sees trying something, prototyping in design thinking terms, having something to prototype and see where that takes you, what you learn from it. And that could be, on a small scale, volunteering. It could be the informational interviews I'm talking about. It could be part-time working. It could be a mini project alongside your present work, whatever it is. Those prototypes are really going to teach you an awful lot. And again, that's something that I talk about in other blogs as well. So I'm not going to go into that in a lot of depth, but that's the thinking behind the strategy and the tactics that you need to employ to get from A to B. I think the other thing that I want to say is that we've now spoken about what kind of career change, how, and that's how do I make a decision and how do I get from A to B. And the next vital piece is, for me, the piece that is the linchpin, that really provides not only the fuel to see you through, but the conviction that you're on the right path. So in the next video, I'll be talking about that. I hope you found this useful today, and I look forward to coming on in the next one to talk about the vital missing piece in your career change. Bye for now.